Good morning. Good morning. We're on Mindset Reset Monday. We're talking about the weight we carry this month. That's what this month series is. And today we're talking about the weight of over functioning. We're in the life framework, right? So it's all about the love of self today. So the theme is that you're not tired because you're weak. You're tired because you've been strong for too long. You're tired because you've been strong for too long. Here's the big question that I want you to ask yourself as we're having this conversation. What part of me is still trying to prove I'm okay? All right. What part of me is trying to still prove that I'm okay? All right. Um, have you ever felt guilty for resting or had difficulty with that? Like the moment you sat down, the moment that you took off work, something inside of you just kind of whispered that you don't deserve it, or what, just had some level of resistance to it, right? Some type of judgment that made that rest that you need um feel, I'm gonna use the word wrong, right? Or feel um yeah, like your judgment, like your I just feel like a judgment. Listen, so many of us are tired, right? We're tired. And more often we're tired of being tired. All right. We've made strong our personality. All right. We have literally made being strong a part of who we are, the strong one, the fixer, right? And all of that. We have learned to really call this responsibility, but in reality, you guys, it's survival. All right, it's survival. In survival, in survival mode, we don't sleep well, right? In survival mode, it's hard to rest deeply, right? And in survival mode, you guys, we don't really trust tomorrow, right? And so we try to control, because when you've lived to be the strong one, to stay safe, guess what? Your body forgets how to soften. Your body forgets how to loosen up, right? So today's life lesson is for anyone who has confused being needed with being valued, because real strength isn't how much you carry, you guys, it's knowing when to put it down. I want to say that again. Real strength has nothing to do with how much you carry. Real strength is knowing when to put it down. So, my why for this lesson? All right, I created this because too many people are wearing burnout like it's a badge. And when I say that, I don't think it's intentional, like I'm wearing this as a badge, but the language is, you know, I'm overwhelmed, I'm burnt out, I got so much going on, right? And in a sense, it has become rehearsed. Like we have rehearsed this as a part of who we are in our life. So this lesson is really about coming back to you. And if you've never met you, it's about reintroducing yourself to you. I got gnats. It's about reintroducing yourself to yourself and realizing that rest isn't a weakness, you guys. It's wisdom. All right. It's about understanding that your body has been trying, or understanding what your body has been trying to tell you. All right. And our body speaks to us. And I think that when we can start to trust that our body is always communicating to us, I think that we will feel, or trust our body more. And this is, again, a part of the self-love journey, is learning to trust you, right? Trust your capacity, trust your understanding, and trust what your body is trying to communicate to you. So again, it's not that your body is trying to tell you, it's not about understanding that your body is trying to tell you something. It's about fully being able to listen, right? To listen to what your body is saying. All right. Listen to what your body is saying. So, my disclaimer, this lesson is truly for educational purposes and educational, informational purposes. All right. It's not a form of therapy, it's not medical advice. Listening and participating, it does not create a client therapy relationship with myself. Dr. Sheila Little. So this lesson is designed to really raise your awareness about your emotional burnout. All right. It's about raising your awareness about how to really shift, right, from survival to thriving. But transformations only happens when you take action, right? It only happens when you take action by setting the boundaries, by seeking the guidance, by creating a space for your nervous system and your human, right? Your spiritual aspects, like making space for your life, all right? For your life, all right? So again, if you experience some, aha moments or something like that, I would just say, hey, get a therapist and start to talk about it and go on the journey to really reconciling your life so that you can start feeling full. All right. So good morning. It is Mindset Reset Monday. It's Monday. It is Monday. Mindset Reset Monday. So let's take our deep breath. No pressure, just your presence. All right. I want to welcome you back to Life Lessons. Life Lessons, it's a part of Project Life, and Project Life is where we turn theory into practice. If you're new here, right? If you're new here, I'm Dr. Sheila Little. I was a clinical therapist for 20 years, but now I serve as a life coach, a life and business coach, and emotional strategist. Okay. Um, yeah, so I want you to drop a word in the chat. Let me know how you're feeling this morning. How are you feeling this morning? I am feeling fairly well, right? I am feeling grateful. I'm feeling a sense of fullness, right? It's going to be a busy week. Like I said, I have some things in the burner that I definitely have to get out. So yeah, I'm excited. So let's do our body scan. If you're new here, every morning we step into our bodies, right? So a part of being an emotional strategist is getting us back comfortable with with being in our bodies, right? Feeling our bodies. I think that um because of any type of dis-ease, the last thing we want to do is feel. So we'll spiritually bypass. We'll do a lot of things to not really feel, right? To not really feel. And so every morning I try to make sure that we get present in our bodies. We've done what we should do, right? And, if we woke up, we had our time for ourselves. Now it's time for us to gather as a community and seek the support of the community and align our day so that we can start to focus on what we want, right? And that starts with getting present. So um again, imagine a sun over your head, right? A sun, a pitcher of water, God's hand, whatever you want to do, right? And allow it to start pouring into you, right? So this is how we're going to fill our bodies up. I like to fill my body up with kindness. But if you need love, if you need compassion, if you need forgiveness, if you need energy, right? Let's fill up with that. So again, just like you would pour a pitcher into a glass of water, where does it start? At the bottom. So we're going to start with our feet, right? Filling our feet, fill up, right? Up our calves, right? Touching every cell of our body on this Mindset Reset Monday, right? Just getting very present, making sure that we are involving our breath. So we're breathing in, right? Inhaling, that it is safe to rest, right? And as we exhale, knowing that I'm worthy to stop striving, right? Like I am worthy of a full life. All right. Up our thighs. All right. Up our torso, right? Addressing the spine, right? Just letting the spine know that it is safe. We can go out of fight, freeze, or fawn into safe and social, right? Making sure that we're filling up every cell in our body, every organ, right? Our ribs, our stomach, filling our hearts. Like I say, a healing is a process, right? And so sometimes we just want to run away from the pain. But a part of this life lesson is just to say, let's feel the comfort first, right? So let's just comfort our hearts, right? And feeling for the places that we feel may be broken or feeling some dis-ease, right? Let's feel that in, feel that warmth. All right. And then up our shoulders, and just like anything, it's gonna when that liquid or that warm sunlight or whatever it is starts to come off your shoulders, down your arms, it's gonna start feeling in your hands first, right? So the tip of our fingers, right? Just seeing that or feeling that fill up, activating our hands, right? A lot of us feel stuck. We don't really know what to do, right? And your hands is your manual process, right? So activating our hands so our hands can be in sync with our brains, right? Up our forearms, right? To our muscles, right? Strengthening our muscles. And then back up our neck, right? Clearing our throat chakra, just comforting that a lot of us are in survival mode or has taken on the strong one role. Why? Because, we may have some issues with communicating our boundaries, right? And so this space actually works in congruency or together with our solar plexus, right? So our confidence is from the pit of our stomach, but we speak that it's in relationship to our throat chakra. So these two work together. So warming and filling that space, coming up our mouth, right? Softening our ears for this lesson today, activating our eyes so we can see the thing that we want and really start to shift our focus from what we don't want, but what we do want and how to create the space for that. So activating our brain on this morning, right? I know a lot is going on in our lives, personally, community, culturally, right? And so just really feeling and activating our minds. Sometimes we can have a lot of decision fatigue, which is why routines work, right? A part of loving ourselves is creating routines so that we don't have to make as many choices. Because when you wake up in survival mode, a lot of times you have to make so many choices because there's no system in place, right? You're moving here and there and you're kind of like in chaos. And I used to call it like controlled chaos, right? And so really bringing some compassion to our brains that's making all of these thoughts and really focusing on how do I shift to create the systems so I can really relieve myself of this decision fatigue. All right. And just like you will pour fluid into a glass of water, right? Just allowing that to pour over your largest organ, which is your skin, and just comfort you on this morning. And let's take that deep breath again in and just breathing in safety to rest, right? And breathing out, right? That energy of survival, releasing that on this morning. So good morning. How are you this morning? Good morning, Miss Hollis. Good morning. Good morning. So, who is this session for today? This is for you if you're tired, even after sleeping. All right. If you feel guilty when you take breaks, right? And if you're great at showing up for other people, but you forget to show up for yourself. You forget to show up for yourself. This is for you if you've been surviving through strength instead of living through softness. One of the things I'm so grateful for is hiring a feminine coach, right? Not a feminine coach in a sense of helping me to be more female, right? Even though I definitely carry a level of perceived masculine energy, but like the being part, right? The softness and giving myself permission to be soft, right? Giving myself permission that even in my most sternest boundary, like I can take a tone of assertiveness and still do that from an intention of being me, right? I know what I value. I know what I want in this life. I know what I want for myself. And so I don't have to force anything. I don't have to, in a sense, do so much when I learn how to be in this feminine energy. And that is what your feminine energy is about. All right. So here's my powerful quote for today. When strength becomes your identity, exhaustion becomes your constant companion. All right. When strength becomes your identity, exhaustion becomes your highest companion. Look who popped up. I was just talking about the feminine coach, and we have her in the room, Miss Lordine, Jean Francois. I can never say it last. Coach Lou. Coach Lou. That was my feminine coach, you guys. And she definitely taught me two important things. How to live in the and, right? The A and D, that I can feel sadness and gratitude, right? I can feel overwhelmed in a sense of, in a sense of peace, right? Just not having to live in the but, the BUT, right? So that was very powerful for me. And then the being, right? Just being present, right? Just being present and learning how to allow life to come to me versus me going to chase life. And a big part of that feminine energy is finding a place that you sit, right? And I call it your space, your spiritual pattern. That's authentically creating energy. When you sit there, in a sense, you're pulling life to that space, right? Because life now starts to move through you versus you doing stuff and trying to move through life. And that's just a totally different energy. So I thank you on this morning, Coach Lou. Okay. So let's talk about this lesson. Last week, we wrestled with control, right? So we talked about the weight. We talked about the weight of what we wrestle with, right? And so we wrestle with that mental weight, all right? But this week we face the physical and emotional cost of exhaustion, all right? I once had a client that told me, if I stop moving, everything will fall apart, right? If I stop, like, who's going to do this? What's going to happen? Right. And it was a very much fear based position. And I told her, what if it's already falling apart because you won't stop moving? Right. What if your life is already falling apart because you won't stop to take data? What if your life is already falling apart because you won't pause and see what your clear next move is, right? You're rehearsing your past and you haven't paused to see, what do I need to change, right? What if your life is truly falling apart and you just don't want to see that, right? And so you keep moving to avoid that reality, right? She paused and then she cried. Right. I told you when people come to my office, they cry, right? She cried. Not because she was sad, but because I think what happened is that she allowed her body to be heard, right? And that truth to really resonate with her mind, right? And really face what she had been avoiding. That's what exhaustion does, you guys. It waits for, that's what exhaustion does. It waits for the permission to be, it waits for you to have the permission, right, to be honest, right? I tell the story that in my 30s, oh man, it was just, it was like a storm. But I have to say this, I really do feel like I found the eye of the storm, but it was a storm. Like, it was August. I don't know what year it was, but I know I had did a 30-day shape your life series, right? 30 motivated factors to shape 30 motivating factors to shape your life. And each week, similar to this life lessons, the content has to move through you before it can be delivered to the people you serve, right? Right. Um, and and so I'm talking about the first week was spiritual foundation. So I'm talking about spiritual foundation. The second week was health, emotional health, physical health, mental health. The third week we talked about abilities, right? The fourth week we talked about performance. And then the last week was more like edification, right? Like your emotional edification. And in doing the research, and that was like the first time that I had really like, I'm going to do this 30-day series. At the time, I was with my business partner, Dr. Des, and so we're going through it. It just transformed me. So in August, I was like, I'm taking off, right? I got to reset my life. And what I realized is that I was holding so much together and I had so much resistance, and just was doing so much. And by September, like that pause in August of me saying, I'm not going to take any phone calls. I'm not really going to address any. I'm just going to focus on me, my business or whatever. By in September, I had so much mail and things like that, and realized that I had to go through foreclosure and turn my house in and all of that. And instead of scrambling, like how I'm gonna fix this, how I'm gonna do, who I'm gonna talk to, what I need to do, I was like, okay, all right. I wrote a plan for my life, what I wanted. I had sticky notes everywhere, and it's so interesting because I really did think I was gonna keep the house, right? Because I was, I put the stuff in. I did do that stuff. Like I sent the letter in and I sent in my bank statements, and I really did think that I was gonna keep the house. And the week came up for my house to go up on short sale. And I'm calling them. I'm like, did you guys approve it? They're like, oh, we haven't seen it yet. So my house went up for sale like on a Thursday. And I call on a Monday because I haven't heard anything. But I'm really like, dude, like, oh, it's gonna go through. I'm really not frazzled at all. And then that Wednesday, it was like, I don't know, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they got back with me and it was like, yeah, it's nothing we can do. We didn't approve it. And by that time, it really wasn't enough time to like get a lawyer or anything. Or from my understanding, right? I didn't have those resources and connections. And so the home went into foreclosure. And it was like, okay. So I had to ask myself some questions. Do we want to stay or do we want to build a business? Are we going to go get a job? And I'm saying am I going to go get a job, go back into therapy so that I can keep up with the mortgage and pay all the back pay? Or am I just going to let this go and start not even from zero, but start from who I am now, right? Taking all my experiences and kind of resetting with this new mind. And so I chose to let it all fall. And oh, did it fall? I mean, the judgments, the people, oh, she's not doing well. Now, everything that I feared would happen, it happened. But here's what I feel like because I was honest, because I was truthful, it didn't touch me, right? It didn't bother me, right? Like it wasn't like I was trying to perform or prove anything. I let them feel the way they feel because this is what I realized. They could not have said anything about me in that moment that I hadn't already said to myself. So they were only being a mirror of my own fears. They were only being a mirror of my own doubts. So everybody who had an opinion was like, yeah, I said that. Right? And I meditated and I prayed, and that's when I got into meditation and things like that. So I just wanted to share that story because I do feel like similar to this client, we feel stuck, we feel overwhelmed, but we're carrying this weight because we feel like if I let it go, my life is going to fall apart. And I'm like, guess what? My life was falling apart before August. My life was falling apart before September. And I was like, each time something dropped, it was like I was taking from Peter to pay Paul. And I was like trying to figure out, okay, what to hold and what to let go, and, going behind on this to catch up on that. So the illusion was that everything was together, but it was like me in the background and all these cracks happening and me trying to seal it up temporarily, fix it. But my life had been start falling apart before, right? That foreclosure. I think the foreclosure was just a full demonstration of what had been happening throughout my mid 20s, and up into my 30s, like the last 10 years, right? Right. And so the courage to just let it fall and know that, if it, just like in nature, if it's a fire or something like that, like the land comes back more beautiful, more flourished, right? The seed is there. The seed is in me, right? The lesson is in me. So I can use that. I can use that. All right. So here's another example. I had a client who said that they grew up, um, I want to say this. Maybe you grew up as the responsible one. This client grew up as the responsible one, but maybe you grew up as the responsible one. Maybe you grew up as the helper, the fixer, the strong one. And it worked, right? You became capable and dependable and admired for that, right? Like at some point in our young mind, when we start to take on roles, especially when you're kind of like the first, you know what I mean? So when I first started college, I had my book bag, and I mean, I can't say I failed out of college a whole lot in the beginning, right? Nobody knew that. They just like, Sheila, you in college? Yeah. Oh, good for you. But they didn't know, like, I hadn't developed my writing skills. Like, so much was going on, right? But the book bag and and all of that, it gave me external validation, even though I wasn't really at that time the best student that I could be. All right. So maybe growing up, you had to be the responsible one, the helper, the fixer, the strong one, and it worked because you became capable. You rehearsed it enough. You became the dependable one and admired. But now, right, those same drives has become what? They have become draining. All right, they have become draining. You built an identity on strength, and then and when we build identities on strength, you guys, guess what? Rest starts to feel foreign, right? So Ms. Hollis said, right, taking accountability is important for growth. It's so important for our growth, you know. And I think that taking accountability without judgment. And maybe taking accountability is a form of not judgment. I think sometimes it's very difficult for us to take accountability because there's a judgment in between there, right? So if I own up to the fact that I wasn't always the best with my money, right? There's a level of guilt, there's a level of shame that comes with that. So it's easier for me to talk about possibly not having enough pay versus the pay that I was getting. What was I doing with it, right? And so I think that there's a step before accountability that we really have to understand, which is the judgment, right? That dis-ease that you feel when you have to take into account the role you played in it. And I always say it's cap, right? Either you caused that to happen. CAP is an acronym. You caused it to happen, you allowing it to happen, or you participating in it in some way, shape, or form. And guess what else is a form of participation? Not saying nothing. Knowing but not addressing it, right? Because you don't like conflict, because you don't want to rock the boat, right? But that is a form of participating. All right. Right. So again, it worked. But now that same drive has become a drain. You've built an identity on your strength, right? And rest starts to feel foreign. Your body is whispering, I need you to stop, right? I need you to stop. But your mind keeps saying, not yet, right? Not until we get this thing done. And then when you get that done, it's like another thing needs to be done. And then you get that done and another thing needs to be done, right? The truth is, everything will never be done. Everything will never be done. But you need to get some rest now. And this idea that I'll rest once everything is done, or I'll rest once I get there, or I'll rest once this happens, that is just a foreign ideology. It's like saying, and I love to give this metaphor, it's like saying I ate breakfast this morning and that's going to fuel me for the remainder of the week. No, I'm going to get hungry again. Life, when you're living life, it is moving, right? It is moving through you. So nothing is never all the way done. And then we go through different seasons, right? Like, I look at my boys, and I have a 23-year-old, 20-year-old, and a 16-year-old, right? And their needs are so different now, right? Than when they were 1, 2, and 3. Now, when they was 1, 2, and 3, I'm like, oh my God, I'd be glad when they get old enough to do this, and then I can do this. But when they got that age, a different need emerged, right? As a mother, I had to be present in a different way. And then now they're adults, and now I have to be present in a different way. Good morning, Miss Lady. Good morning. She said everything will never be done. Oh my, that's an eye opener. We can do anything, but not everything. Yes, we can do anything, but not everything. I love that, lady. Thank you for that. All right. So again, you need to get your rest. So here's our mirror moment for today. Here's our mirror moment. I want you to pause and ask yourself, what part of me is still trying to prove I'm okay? All right. And I want you to take a breath, and I want you to let that question sit in your body for a moment. Notice where you feel it at, right? Do your chest tighten up? Do you feel the weight on your shoulders, right? Do you feel that knot in your throat, right? Is there some butterflies in your stomach? Okay, right? I really want you to ask yourself, where am I still trying to prove I'm okay? Is it in what area in your life? Is it in my love of self? Is it in my interactions with others? Is it in my finances, whatever that is, right? Let's be honest and do that mirror moment and just do that pause and check in. All right. And here's 5 things your body wants you to know. That your body wants you to know that you can't heal while you're hustling. All right. Your body is begging for you to slow down. All right. It's begging for you to take the pause. Right. Rest isn't a luxury, you guys. It's a biological requirement for repair. It is things that your body needs to do when you rest that you don't have the ability to do on your own. It's a function of rest. It's just like your cell phone. Your cell phone will literally cut off, right? It will literally say, we need to update. You need to power the phone off so that we can do these updates, right? Those updates you can't do. It only can be done when the phone is off, right? And then the program now updates. So when you rest, that's the same thing your body is doing. It's moving information from your conscious mind to your subconscious mind, right? It's reconciling, it's digesting the food, right? So we need to give ourselves this time. So we have to stop looking at rest as a luxury, which we've been taught, right? Hustle and grind, right? To prove your worth, and really start seeing it as a biological requirement for repair. All right. A biological requirement for repair. Another thing your body wants to know, that busyness isn't the same as belonging. All right. You think motion equals meaning, but sometimes you're just running to avoid being still. All right. A lot of times we're running to avoid being still, and we need to know that. We need to know that busyness isn't the same as belonging. And I do think that a lot of times, just a lot of times, um, we will, we will act like, our busyness is a function of our belonging, and it's not. We're busy because we're avoiding, and we have to get honest about that. All right. Number three, holding your breath. uh, uh, the body is saying, I'm holding my breath until you prove we're safe. Okay. I'm holding my breath until you prove, right, that we're safe. Listen, your nervous system can't relax when your worth is always on trial. Your nervous system cannot relax when there's always this feeling of being judged. How good am I? How perfect is this? Right? Your nervous system will never slow down. Productivity can't, and then number four, productivity cannot replace your need for peace. So checking all the boxes, guess what? They feel good. All right, temporarily. It feels good temporarily, but it doesn't restore your soul, you guys. It doesn't restore you back to the fullness so that you can receive and be present for the life you want. And then last but not least, you don't need to earn. You don't need to earn your body. All right. It's already yours. You don't need to earn your rest. You don't need to earn this idea of being this human being, this divine being having a human experience. That is not an earned process, you guys, right? It is yours, right? It is a birthright. Listen, rest isn't a reward. It's essential. All right. And it's always been your birthright. When you were little, it was important, right, for you to sleep. It was important for you to do those things. Why was it important? Because because the because we knew, right? We knew that in you doing that as your parent, that your brain, you needed your rest. When you see your kids, you need to go to sleep, you need a nap. The body needs the same thing. Good morning, Sal. Good morning, Sal. Sal said that hit deep, Dr. Sheila. You can't heal while you're hustling because rest is a biological requirement for repair. That's Sal's wisdom. Thank you, Sal. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. So here's some insight I want you to know. You're wrestling with the need to overperform to feel worthy. All right. And here's why you need to know this, or here's why this matters, because over functioning, it actually disconnects you from your joy. It disconnects you from relationships, and it disconnects you from your body's natural wisdom. All right. Here's the real value in knowing that when you start proving, you actually start belonging. Who do you start to belong to? To yourself, to your peace, and to your life. In this sense of belonging that we have, I say it's true. You do want to belong. You do want to fit in. You do want to be seen. But you know who wants it? You, right? So you start belonging back to you, right? Because sometimes the trauma, the situations has taken us from us. And so this sense of wanting to be a part of something, wanting to belong, wanting to be seen is an absolute truth. But the focus of it is what is off, right? You're focusing on somebody else giving that to you, and it's really you, the orchestrator, the human being, right? The human being, the vessel, the driver of the ship, that's like, oh, I am like, I belong to me, right? So again, when you start proving, you start belonging to yourself, belonging to your peace, and belonging to your life. All right. So here's a testimony from one of my clients. She said, when I finally started resting, I realized that I was never lazy. I was just depleted, right? And misguided. All right. And then research supports this. Research says that chronic overwork raises cortisol levels, you guys, and disrupts the um, the sleep cycle. All right. Leading to, when that is erupted, when those cortisol levels spike and your sleep cycle is interrupted, that leads to emotional burnout, that leads to a weakened immune system, and it leads to physical illness, you guys. So rest actually resets the parasympathetic nervous system. And that's the state that you want to be in for your body to truly start to heal. And again, I just think that we're so much on the what do I do to heal? Not realizing that you are in partnership with your body. So, a part of the trauma that you're trying to heal, your body's wisdom knows how to do that if you just allow it, right? If you just allow the space for you to rest, for you to meditate. And this is why meditation and mindful moments are so good. All right. So you want peace that doesn't require proof, right? Don't you? I think we all do. We all want peace that doesn't require proof. All right. The kind of peace that's the kind of peace that, or the kind of peace that that's still there even when, right? Even when you're not producing, the kind that whispers you're enough, even when you're doing nothing right. Right? We want that. All right. And that's the piece that really you have to anchor or learn to anchor yourself in. All right. All right. So if that made sense, put a heart in the chat for me. All right. As we move into our life framework. So again, today we're talking about the love of self. All right. This lesson fits under the love of self because love of self starts with emotional honesty, you guys, admitting that you're tired and not admitting that you're tired in the rehearsal of the tired, but acknowledging I need rest so that, and then allowing that space for, so how do I create that? How do I allow a space for rest to exist in my life? All right. So here's 5 essentials about the weight of overfunctioning. All right. Overfunctioning is fear disguised as responsibility. All right. You're not helping, you're controlling outcomes to feel safe. All right. So what does that mean? A lot of people is like, I help everybody, I give to people, I do so much for people, I do this. You're not helping. You're really not, right? Here's what you're doing. You're controlling for an outcome that's going to help you feel safe. You want something. You're helping because you want them to see you as helpful. You want them to see you as strong. You want them to recognize your efforts, right? So there's the intent behind it is to get something back. All right? True help and true service is I'm giving that. Whether you acknowledge it or not, I feel good because I gave it, right? Because I'm doing it. But when we don't get that acknowledgement back, that validation back, we get bitter, right? We get bitter, we get upset, right? Because we don't feel like we're being recognized. All right. Number 2, your nervous system can't distinguish between danger and overwork. All right. Your nervous system cannot distinguish between danger and overwork. Both triggers the same stress hormone, you guys. Fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Your body thinks busyness is a threat. It doesn't know like, oh, I'm overworking. This is not dangerous, right? No, it's like it, it's the same place in the brain that's being triggered, which is why it's hard to go into, or it can be challenging to go into that safe and social mode because you're overworked, right? And you're burnt out. And so you're more likely to be in an emotional disconnect. All right. Number 3, rest recalibrates your sense of worth. Rest actually recalibrates your sense of worth. Okay. When you rest without guilt, you teach your body that you're valuable, even when you're still. Now, people who know me know I do a morning nap, right? So I get up about 5, 6 in the morning. I get my son together, I drop him off, I get myself together, I do my whole morning routine. I come do the life lessons, I set my day up, check all my emails. I'm finna start working out again, right? But between like 11 and 1, I do a nap, right? Like in a sense, I need to take a break. Now, sometimes I don't nap, right? But I take a conscious moment to breathe. It's like my midday reset, right? Because I've already been up now for 6, 7 hours. Then I work. So my work schedule starts from like 1 to 5 or 6, right? I'm working with clients, so I'm helping them with their problems. So between 6 and 7, I do another reset. I sit, I pause, I take a nap, right? And then the 8 from 8 on, like if I need to do any writing, anything like that, I do that, and then I pause at the end of the day, right? So people who know me like, you taking a nap, ain't you? Yeah. You just got it from the yes, I did. I did. Now, there was a time in my life, you guys, where I hid my naps, right? Like I'm in between clients and I'm like, oh, I'll go to my daddy's house, like, oh, dad, I need to just take a nap right fast. But it really wasn't real rest because I judged it as being like, why am I tired? I need to wake up. I'm drinking amps, right? I'm trying to do stuff to stay up. Right. And this is what I work with my clients on, how to really build a system that really helps them do that. Number 4, slowing down. Okay. Slowing down isn't lazy, it's alignment, you guys. Right. At some point, right. Okay. We got the what's coming up in my spirit is so we have the big things that come together. Boom, 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 boom. But we know that life is about the grainier things. And that happens in slowness, right? It's like taking a thread and putting it through a needle, right? You don't do that fast. You do that very slow, right? Because you want to make sure that this piece of thread is going to get through this little needle. What do I mean with that? In life, it becomes about those little things, right? And to be able to address the little things that build the foundation for your life, right? You have to slow down. You have to step back, right? Any foundation that you step on right now, I don't care if it's the ground, I don't care if it's concrete, it's not one big solid block. The ground is a bunch of little dirt pieces put together, sand, a bunch of little rocks put together, concrete, a bunch of little cement put together, right? And in life, when we go to heal ourselves and build that foundation for our healing and expansion, it's the same way. It's these little things, these little systems, these little routines, these little rituals that we do throughout the day, giving gratitude, acknowledging what direction am I going, checking in, these very granular things that we do that starts to build this foundation, right? But when you're going so fast, you'll miss over it. What else is coming up in my mind is, did you guys ever play Mario Brothers? Right. So in Super Mario Brothers, you used to have this where it used to be these little slats, right? These little bricks that you had to jump on, right? But what could you do? You could run fast over them. And when you ran fast over them, you didn't fall in. But when you ran slow, what you did, you fell in, right? So that's in life too, right? When you run fast, you actually skip over these gaps or these silos that need to be addressed. So we need to slow down and fill those in step by step, row by row, and decision by decision. All right. So again, slowing down isn't laziness, it's alignment. Alignment means that your actions match your energy and the vibe that you want to give. And that's alignment means that your action match your energy and values, not just urgency. All right. And then last but not least in this section, number 5, when you choose rest, you model love instead of hustle. You show others and yourself that care doesn't require sacrifice of self. All right. That your care doesn't require sacrifice of self. Okay. All right. If that made sense, in that section, make sure you put a heart in the chat for me. All right. All right. And here's our biblical wisdom for today. All right. So Matthew 11:28, come to me all who are weary and a burden, and I will give you rest. So come to me all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Here's the interpretation from that God space within you. Okay. This is not about waiting to be rescued from the God in the sky or from, praying and I'm waiting on God. No, this is about the God within you, the wisdom of your body. All right. This is a way this verse can be interpreted. The wisdom of your body, the intelligence of your nervous system, calling you back to balance. So Yahshua Messiah isn't saying stop working forever. He's saying your body was designed to toggle between effort and rest, balance and focus. All right. And when you stay weary, you break that design. Because by design, your body was created to rest. And Yahshua Messiah modeled this. What did you see in the Bible? It would say he would leave. He would go in prayer. He would lead the disciples. Even he understood that he needed rest, right? He would separate himself. All right. So the rest that he's offering isn't passivity, right? It's not passive rest. It's a psychological restoration. All right. So again, come to me all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Biologically, right? When you rest, your body is designed to give you that restoration. All right. All right. So neuroscience supports this. When your body is chronically stressed, what the scripture is calling weary and burdened, your sympathetic nervous system is stuck in overdrive. All right. So when your body is in chronic stress, which in the scripture could be defined as the weary and burden, your sympathetic nervous system is stuck in overdrive. So cortisol stays elevated, heart rate stays high, sleep becomes fragmented. You can't sleep through the night. Your body literally cannot heal. But rest, true rest, activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which lowers your cortisol levels, slows your heart rate, deepens your breath, restores your immune function. So it helps with your immunity and allows for cellular repair. All right. So, in modern terms, come into your nervous regulation system and let your body downshift from survival mode. All right. So, in a sense, come to me who are weary and labor. Listen, this is let your nervous system do what it was built to do. You shut down so that it can step up. All right. So the Bible so neuroscience is supporting this by saying the Bible is describing the parasympathetic activity thousands of years ago, before we even had language to even know that that's what the body was doing. All right. That's by design. And that's why I feel like God is just phenomenal, right? Like just building this body that does the very thing that biblical scriptures speak of, but we're waiting for it to happen miraculously, not realizing that by design, if you do the thing, right? If you allow rest to come, naturally your body is going to align. All right. Here's your promise verse. He makes me lay down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. People know I love this verse. This is my favorite verse. My grandfather taught this to me, the 23rd Psalms, right? Learned it at 4 years old. And it's just institched in me. All right. So this is Psalms 23, 2 and 3. He lays me down by green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters, and he restores my soul. Here's our interpretation again for the God within you. All right. Notice the verb make. The verbs here are make. The verb here is leads. And the verb here is restore. Sometimes the God within you, which is your body's, and which is a part of your body's intelligence, will force rest even when you won't choose it. All right. This shows us This shows up in burnout. This shows up in illness. This shows up in injury and emotional shutdown. So, still waters, right? Your body needs stillness to restore balance. So, neuroscience calls this homeostasis, your body's natural state of equilibrium. Restore my soul equals or can be seen as neurologically. This is neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to rewire itself in emotional regulation. So when you rest, your brain can what? Process your emotions or digest them, consolidate memories, you guys, restore neural pathways, right? So all of the neuroplasticity, all of that journaling that you're doing in this healing path and the praying that you're doing and all of that, but you're anxious and you're overwhelmed. So it's not even downloading into the place that it needs to download so that you can get the results because you're not resting. So you're journaling and you're seeing your therapist and you're doing all this work and you're like, why is it nothing not changing? It's like, because you haven't shut down. You haven't gotten rest, right? Even when you go to the hospital, it's so funny because they'll cut the light off. It's an empty room. They'll give you an IV, hydrate your body, and you rest. And when they come back, depending on if you have an illness or not, but your blood pressure has went down, right? You just feel more refreshed. Why? Because that hour, 3 hours, and a part of it is strategic. We just gonna let them sit in there, right? And a part of that is strategy. If we let them sit there, right, in rest, in quiet, right, then we're gonna see what how the body responds. If the body is still, if the blood pressure is still high, if we can't regulate that, then right, then we can do something different. But right now, we're gonna let the body does what the body do. All right. So again, these verbs make, leads, restores, is your body's intelligence, right? And it will force, and in a sense, if you don't do it, your body will force you to do it. And that does show up as burnout, illness, injury, all right? And the still water, right? So he makes me lay down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. That still water is your body uh, needs stillness to restore, right? And God has made that provision for you. All right. So neuroscience support, when you're constantly moving, deciding, producing, your brain stays in beta waves, which is alert, active, and anxious. And stillness shifts you into alpha and theta waves. All right. And that is calm, that is creative, and that is restorative, right? So, in modern terms, your body will make you rest if you won't choose it, you guys. So, stillness is not a punishment. It's the condition required for your nervous system to what? To restore itself. And when your nervous system can restore itself, then you, right, in partnership with that, will be restored. All right. So the God within you is the part of you that knows when you need rest. Your intuition, your body's whispering, your spirit is saying, you can't keep going like this. You just can't. And I know you've heard it. And if you've heard it, put a one in the chat. If you heard your mind say, I can't keep this up, there's no way I can do it, but you keep doing it over and over and over again. So science and scripture agree. Still waters calms the storms that are in your body. All right. All right. So here is an intention that I want to give to you because I think that language is important. So I want you to place your hand on your heart, okay? And I want you to hold one hand on your belly. All right. And I want you to take in a slow breath and hold it. And then exhale fully, right? Release all of it. And how we do that is we can breathe in 4 and breathe out 6 or 8. So in 4 counts, out 6 or 8 counts. Now speak this intention out loud or silently as a declaration to your nervous system and just to you, okay, as a divine being. All right. I receive the truth that rest is my body's natural design. I receive the truth that rest is my body's natural design. Okay. I give my nervous system permission to downshift, which means to upload. Okay. I give my spirit permission to soften. I am safe to rest. I am worthy of restoration. All right. Now I want you to take 3 more slow breaths. Okay. And notice what shifts in your chest. Notice what shifts on your shoulders. And notice what happens to your jaw. This shift, that's your body saying, thank you. All right. All right. So here's your question. How does resting in the God within you, which is your body's wisdom and your spiritual intuition, feel right now? Does that feel light? Does it feel safe? And does it feel steady? So let's put this into practice. I want you to block out 30 minutes this week for intentional rest. No phones, no to-do list, right? Right. And I know you're going to be like, but yeah, I want you to do that. All right. Identify one task you'll delegate, delay, or decline. One of the biggest things that we have to learn how to do is delegation. So in my Limits to Lemonade, so helping people go from this limits condition, which is lacking the energy, the motivation, organizational skills, necessary supports, and skill sets to lemonade, the first L in lemonade is leveraging your time. And leveraging your time is not about a schedule. Let's get out your calendar. Leveraging your time is delegating, right? Understanding what's the highest best use of your most valuable asset, which is your time. And delegating, right? Delegating responsibilities to other people, that requires trust. That requires you to relinquish control. So that's a very much emotional thing because we want to control the outcome, right? We want to control everything. So what I want you to do is identify one task today, this week, or today that you will delegate, that you'll delay, or that you'll just say, no, I'm not going to do that today. Okay. And then practicing, I'm not available right now without guilt. Practice saying it. What that means is that the first time you say it, you may feel some guilt, but we're going to say it over and over and over again until we communicate to our nervous system that it is safe for me to not be available right now. All right. All right. Here's your journal prompt. Where am I mistaking being busy for being valuable? And then I have a kind of like an audit that you can do. Rest for me looks like what? Rest for me sounds like what? Rest for me feels like what? One thing that steals your rest, and then one boundary that you can set to protect your rest. So again, this is in a sense, this is a rest audit for your self-love day. So I want you to ask yourself, rest for you looks like what? And if you don't know the answer, join Project Life. We'll help you with that. Rest to me sounds like what? Okay. If you having difficulty understanding or figuring it out, get a coach or a therapist, right? And rest for me feels like what? See, if you don't know what rest looks like, if you don't know what rest sounds like, and you don't know what rest feels like, then it's going to be very hard for you to rest because you have no idea of what conceptually of what it means. But it's your job to give the mind the mental image for what it looks like, right? The trigger for what it sounds like. Okay. Does it sound like rain? Does it sound like affirmations? Does it sound like music, soft music playing in the background? Right? What does rest sound like? And then what does it feel like? And we can even ask, what does it smell like? Sometimes I'll put on some vanilla and cinnamon, right? I'll put it on my stove, boil it. And that just brings me a sense of comfort. My grandmother used to make rice pudding when I was little. And I could just remember because we, didn't always have resources, but I can remember when that smell of rice pudding came in, it was just such a warm feeling for me, right? It was just like, oh, she's cooking rice pudding, right? It was like, and in a sense, I tied it to this is our dessert, right? And so to me back then, desserts meant a reward. We did something good. And so I associated that smell of cinnamon and vanilla with like this good feeling. And so when I need energy or I'm feeling a little drab, I'll just take some cinnamon and some vanilla and I'll put it on the stove and I'll boil it so that it can seep through my house. All right. So again, rest for me looks like, rest for me sounds like, rest for me feels like, and we're gonna add rest for me um smells like, all right? And then one thing that steals your rest, all right? And then one boundary that you can set to protect it. And then your affirmation for today. My worth isn't measured by my output, it's expressed through peace. And then your intention statement for today. Today, I choose to rest out of an act of faith, not from failure. All right. And then a bonus challenge. Every time guilt whispers, you should be doing more. I want you to answer it out loud. I'm enough, even at this rest, even while I'm resting. All right. The thing about it is that you've done enough because you are enough. Right. All right. And creating plans and system is so important to really monitor and again help you with that decision fatigue. So if this session really resonated with you, I wanted you to share it, right? Share it on your page, share it to your community, right? Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel at iamshapersolutions.com. Make sure that you join the Elevate Life group so you can have those conversations with Sal. Yeah. And if this session really resonated with you and you are walking away with some insight today, you already know what to do. Drop a fire in the chat, right? Drop a fire in the chat if you're ready to rest without apology. So here's my call, my challenge, my charge for you. Okay. I want you to, my call is, what truth are you walking away with today? Right. My challenge to you is schedule your rest for the same way you schedule your responsibilities. All right, schedule it. And then my charge to you, as always, go shape your life. All right, not by doing more, not by being more, but by letting rest become a part of your rhythm. All right, by letting rest become a part of your rhythm, your just so your overall rhythm. All right, and your refuge. All right, and here's my closing reminder: rest is not rebellion, you guys. It is recovery. So when you slow down, you don't lose progress. You actually regain your presence. And in that state of fullness, you will definitely start to attract the life you want. So I'm excited. We're talking about exhaustion this week. Today, we're talking about the love of self. Tomorrow, though, we're talking about the weight we carry. We're talking about exhaustion in our relationships. All right. If you want a copy of the weight we carry journal, make sure that you DM me so we can put you on the list. We're having some problems with the link, so we're going to get those out hopefully by the end of this week. So I'll see you tomorrow for Transformational Tuesday in this series called The Weight We Carry. We're going to explore how helping can become hiding when love turns into over functioning for other people. All right. And as always, I'm going to give you this takeaway. You're not tired because you're weak. You're tired because you've been too strong for too long. All right. You're not tired because you're weak. You're tired because you've been too strong for too long. Rest is not what happens when everything is done. It's how everything gets done, right? In peace and with ease. So tonight, when you fully sit down, don't apologize. Don't justify it. Just breathe and let your body remember what it feels like to be held by you. All right. All right. Honestly, I think that this lesson is a permission for you, a permission slip for you to start, or for you to start breathing, or for you to finally breathe again. All right. So I want you to remember this. If you could shape it in your mind, you could have it in your life. Know that I love you. I love you. I love you. And I will see you tomorrow for that life lesson. Till later.